House will allow individuals to sell their votes for financial compensation. Without further ado, I will call on primary speakers.
Ladies and gentlemen, in state school today, we have faced a serious problem. In most of democratic states, when it comes about election time, a lot of democratic states such as United States, Taiwan, and others, they face a serious problem. Now, what is the problem, ladies and gentlemen? The problem that we have now in the state school is the lack of interest from a lot of people. Probably they are from the teenagers or from adult people. Their lack of interest in the political situation of their country. When it comes to election, ladies and gentlemen, they will come to the situation where they cannot really decide who to vote, and they cannot really decide. Who is the best. What is happening now? If I vote this guy, what will happen? Even though there is still in the state school, the media is still broadcasting, to supporting to us, that to inform us, to keep us informed, like in the United States now, about the presidential election. But still, there's still a lot of amount of teenagers which is really skeptic to the situation of to their country's political situation. So we think, ladies and gentlemen, we came up with this motion. This house will allow individuals to sell their votes for financial compensation. And what we mean by votes, of course, ladies and gentlemen, is the votes that our rights that we in an election. And for financial compensation, ladies and gentlemen, it will be given by another private subject or private subject which I will elaborate in my small model. Our model is, this is not forcing, ladies and gentlemen. So if you want to sell your vote, you have the rights to do it. You are not going to force it. If you don't want to vote and you are abstain, we will not force you to sell your vote. And ladies and gentlemen, in order to make this, in order to be eligible to sell your vote, you must be not a political party, member of a political party. And if you want to buy this vote rights, you're only up to one vote. For example, so if I can only buy one vote from one people, and then it's now. So if you try to make a consensus, you have to go to the nearest office government to track to trace your data, so that there will be any fraud, so that you won't be able to sell your vote rights twice because you don't have it, you only have it once. So I think I will clear my model. So ladies and gentlemen, why should we put this motion now? Moving on to my argument, to our first argument. We believe this. We're going to maximize the system of the democracy system. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, we believe, we still respect the form that in democracy, everybody has the right to vote. But ladies and gentlemen, we have to advance. We have to adjust the system according to our state school. It is better for us, for absent people who don't really know about stuff, who don't really know about political, who is skeptical about political rights, who's skeptical about political rights, to sell to someone who does really care, who does really know who they will vote to, and who really does know what they are doing. So this, ladies and gentlemen, we still upbring the spirit of democracy, we still respect it. But still, ladies and gentlemen, we have to adjust it to the current situation in order to make the best choice of the people. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please.
I don't know that is the definition of what is democracy. Democracy means that most of the people to take part in politics
society nowadays. So ladies and gentlemen, we believe by doing this, we are also giving the people giving some people to involve more to.
Why that's hard to say? What is the because what having work is only have citizenship people. So why that's hard to say? What do you think?
I don't really get what your PI is, but you are free to elaborate in your rebuttals. So ladies and gentlemen, we believe by giving this, we are giving more chances for people to participate in the current democracy, in the current voting, and it will give them more something to care about the country. Some people will sometimes think that, oh, this is my rights, I don't want to sell it. This is my right. Then it will force them, ladies and gentlemen, to care more about their country, to know what happened nowadays when it comes to election. And it will raise the awareness of the people of the country to make the best, because as we already know, ladies and gentlemen, election is one of the most important part in a country. So ladies and gentlemen, we believe that by this model, by this free model, we believe will maximize the value of democracy, which is not that we are not respecting, we respect it, we're adjusted to the current situation of it. So that's why it's supposed to be proposed.
I thank the Prime Minister and will open the opposition, please.
Today, I think it is a speaker. We must understand why we have to take this proposal uniquely, because we admit there is problem. There is some people who have interest to the politics. However, why such people have to get the choice to sell? Because today we can understand it, and moreover, by this proposal, the person who don't have enough money have the incentive to sell, even if they have some interest to politics. Therefore, they don't should take this proposal. Firstly, let me repeat what the previous speaker has said. Today, the Prime Minister has said, because in status quo, there is no, some people should be widely existed because firstly, by voting, we can decide the members of the national members or regional members. Therefore, by choosing such people, we can showing our own decision, and moreover, we can change the society by showing voting. However, today by selling the vote, there is because of taking this proposal, there is choice to sell. Therefore, some people have the rational choice, and because as I said before, that there is financial incentive. Therefore, fundamentally, such kind of rights which should be protected vitally, government shouldn't intervene such kind of rights. Therefore, fundamentally, we shouldn't take this proposal. Yes.
So for those people who don't really want to make decisions, would it be better for those people to get money from those people who want to vote and to let them vote for who they want?
I don't think the person, even if the person don't have any interest, we shouldn't we don't have to give the money by escape from the voting, because even in the status quo, the person can escape from the voting. Therefore, I don't today I can't understand why we have to give the money by escaping from the vote, even if it is only the choice that vote itself. And then I'll explain us the second argument. Another status quo, also for people have the right to vote. It is better for them because they can show their own ideas by voting, and they can choose the person who are good for them, and they can also the manifest can be fit for the poor people. Therefore, in status quo, also members have the motivation to make the manifest or policy to save such few poor. However, after taking this proposal, also the policy cut off the such poor because the poor have the immediate profit. Therefore, they irrationally want to get the money. Therefore, they throw away their own right to vote, and such kind of people can't get the any members, national members don't have any necessity to make manifest for such people afterwards, because there is no necessity to get vote from them. Therefore, also the policy itself will prioritize the not poor people. Therefore, fundamentally, it is bad. Thank you.
your vote in some way that you don't want, for those people who don't want to vote, firstly, if they go to vote, they vote for someone they don't really know. They vote for someone who looks prettier, who looks handsomer, but not because what they do, because they don't understand. So for those people, we think that it is better for them to give out their vote to someone who really cares. And by doing so, it is just going to make our society better because the election will be fair for those people because the elections will be based on whether this politic people is good or not. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt your point, but overall, how many votes can I buy overall?
Thank you. You're not listening to our arguments because we say in our motto that only one person can only buy one more votes from others. So it will not be controlled by big political parties. This is just going to be based on citizens, between citizens, they want to participate more in politics. So this is going to make things better. And to move on to the second vote is that we think that if there are only small amounts of people voting, then this vote will not count. Or it will not be that good. Because for voting, what we want to get from voting is to get all the citizens, what they think. We want to know what they think, and we want to know that which kind of politics or which kind of person they want to serve for their country. So that is the reason why they vote. So we believe that if by doing so, this is going to let more people to participate in voting, and this is going to make the election a more valid one, and we think that it is going to let the society better. So, and move on to our two arguments today. The first argument is yes.
As long as there is only one vote I can buy, then why I still buy it? Because it's only one vote, it would have a very minor effect on the political process of the country. And besides, I have to pay for it. I don't think that it would do it.
Firstly, we don't have to pay a lot, just like we don't get a lot from selling that vote. Secondly, each vote counts. That is what democratic is all about. So one people buy more, two people buy more, then for 100 people there will be 100 more votes that count. That really is the people's thought. So we believe that it is going to be efficient, and we think that it is how democratic works. And so move on to my arguments. First one is we respect every citizen. Citizens have their own rights, whether to vote or not. Like in Taiwan, we don't get punished for not voting, so there will be a lot of teenagers who don't want to vote or vote for someone that their parents want them to vote. And we don't think that they don't make their decisions by themselves, so why do they get votes? So this is not how democratic works. So we think that we provide a way, we provide the methods for those teenagers or for those who just don't care about politics, to let out their votes to someone who really cares. And others, we think that by doing so, it is going to prevent a lot of wrong decisions. Wrong decisions are made by people who don't understand. So we think that by doing so, it is going to prevent wrong decisions. And this is a big matter because politicians are voting out to be our presidents or things like that. They're really important. So we believe that one single wrong decision is going to harm our society. And that is the reason why we want to propose this motion today. And the second is we want to stop black market. As we all know, in a lot of democratic countries, although governments are taking a close eye on those political parties to make sure that they don't use a big amounts of money to buy, to tell those citizens to vote for them. This is happening right now, a lot. So by doing so, we think it is going to let those black markets will go down. Yes.
So if you're saying that those one people can only buy one ticket, then I still can have the black market still can exist because those people want more. They don't only just one vote.
But this is going to decrease the black market because this way is more efficient. If you buy register so that you can trace out whether they are in a political parties and if they have other incentives. So we think that by doing so, it is going to make black market to decrease, and that is how we can make sure that every vote counts and every vote is based on really truly decisions, but not just something that it doesn't really count. And so for today, we provide you several reasons for why we believe that this motion should be passed, and we think that we are proud to propose. Thank you.
I think the Prime Minister and I will open this video down.
Senior Honorable Adjudicator, choosing the vote is against democracy because our government abandon democratic opinion and moreover government give mischoice to say the vote. Therefore, for the reason we strongly oppose today. Next, I have introduced what previous speaker has said. We have two education. Firstly, she talked about after the taking proposal, the people who want to more votes, they can go to election and society better. However, what I want to do because after the taking proposal, this regards value of vote because after the taking proposal, teenager or poverty people sell the vote and in the meantime, the person cannot go to the election. It means that people cannot reflect on opinion. Therefore, as a result, government disregards each democratic opinion. Therefore, our society is not better because only these people are only one decline opinion, want more vote, more people who wanted more vote, only those people got a vote. Therefore, this regards democratic opinion. And second implication is about, she said that after the taking proposal, they can decree black market. However, what I want to do, because after the taking proposal, these representatives in the council, they want to more votes. They try to buy the vote by higher price. Therefore, more votes is votes become like financial commodity. Therefore, votes is more sell and buy. Indeed, therefore, more escalate misjoy teenager by own variable vote. Therefore, she argument that more after the taking proposal, more as black market selling vote increase. So having reviewed this, I made my point. We have three issues
vote is not a protection. Sorry, because a vote given to citizens have each citizen, because citizens have nationality. So vote is same to insurance or family register. Family register or insurance cannot sell to others because they those things is given to the government and nation. Therefore, like this vote is same because vote is when we are legitimate age, we can get a vote given by nation and because to contribute to the nation and therefore
Point one.
sorry therefore vote is not protection to save sorry so therefore to admit selling vote is not governmental law. So because government neglect all law, because government don't try to more increase teenager vote. For example, more campaign to vote teenager. Sorry. And to more inform to teenager sorry. Therefore, that is to admit to give only selling the vote
One last time.
in order to avoid governmental burden. So it is against governmental law. And second, the issue is so why teenager not interested to elect because they are immature because they are 18 or 20 years old. So we think a teenager cannot interest in the politics, but to say the vote
their definition that these voting traits will only be one on your personal traits, thus meaning that the politicians will not be able to buy many votes or split the votes by their choices. Rather, it will be like more engaging in politics because a person has to has to buy and persuade the other person on their voting. So each person has to have a political stance, and also this will be more recognized in this election and voting building. About the formal argument about the speech about deputy leader of opposition, she stated about the government's role, how if the government allows people to sell their votes, it's against their governmental role. However, we would like to say that the analysis of this issue was not directly given. So the rebuttal to these two arguments are we have to say that the governmental role on voting is unnecessary, but rather we have to focus on the individual's rights to sell their votes. Now, moving on to our extension. First of all, what is democracy? Democracy means that it's ruled by the people. However, there is no absolute standard of what these people are. We say that the notion of people changes throughout the society. The people doesn't have to be every individual in our nation, in each nation. So we say that elitist democracy is okay, and rather it gives more participation and it gives more engagement in politics and have a better first of all, I would like to give you a philosophical background of how Plato views politics. He said that philosopher thinking relations of politics is okay, better than having everybody have their representation of politics, because they know better and they can represent the need of the people better. He stands on this side of the elitist democracy that pure representative democracy is not practical in our society. So we would like to sell the votes of uninterested people and have a better engagement in politics. For this analysis,
Okay, then why the candidate themselves don't persuade the people to vote for them? Why is
even
it
they
the people
persuade in
them
the
to buy
campaign,
votes?
as they have stated in our society, even the politicians' campaign, their stance on politics, we know that voting elections for people interested in politics is low. Even as we know, the most democratic countries like the USA, their voting rates are under 50%. So what is the use of having campaigns to all those people who are disinterested? Rather, we would like to say that by individually selling these votes, we can have a better representative democracy in our country. Second of all, to our analysis of how we could upgrade this participation in voting. As I've stated, the election voting and participation rate in our society is under 50%. That's not even the half of the population. Selling votes is like weighing the votes to people who are actually interested in voting. So why we are saying that why rather waste another vote of abstaining, but rather represent the people who are actually interested and actually even willing to give their money to pose their political views. Their assumption is that elitist people or people who are actually willing to buy these votes are really corrupted or they can actually abuse people. But we say that as Plato has saw the society, people who are interested in politics is not always bad or is not always focused on their needs. Rather, we say that they want to express their political needs, and we see that this is more a pure form of effective democracy in our country. Thirdly, we would like to go over the analysis of the stakeholders and the individual rights of the people. There are two stakeholders in this whole debate. First of all, the individual voters, and second, the politicians. What would individual voters gain by this policy if this policy passes? They would actually gain financial aid, and with this incentive, actually they would have more interested in politics because they know that if they're interested in it, they can get financial compensation. Second of all, to the politicians. Politicians actively participate in politics. Because in order to sell their votes, they have to persuade people. People are not like purely irrational people. So when they are getting actually financial incentive, they have to know what is going on in the politics. And this is more possible through one-on-one voting, which the opening side has defined. So our stance is that more practical politics and more engaging in politics is possible only through that if we allow people to buy votes and sell their votes. So what we have dealt in this debate is that, first of all, we have to set the notion that democracy is not always defined by all the people in the world, but rather elitist democracy is okay and better, maybe better than the democracy that we have. So upon these stands, the government side has still, in fact, firmly states that people should be able to sell their votes.
Thank the member of government. I will call for the member of the opposition.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. And in this debate, I only want to ask one question: that the interest of money, does it equal to the interest of politics? And the government side is actually having a big assumption that after you introduce the money in the voting process, people are actually getting more interested in politics. But however, we say no, they're still not interested in politics. What they're really interested in is the money that they get. No, they still do not care who is actually going to be voting. They still do not care who is actually to represent their wills. And this is not the true democracy is. And as the member of the opposition side, a member of government told us that we believe we agree with the democracy is that people having fully participate in the politics and showing their ideas. And the more people showing their idea, the more democracy it is. But however, we say that in this case, having after introduce the money, they are people, even though they vote more, they vote have more, having more aim to vote, but they still are not interested in the politics. They still, their votes are still not reflect their own interests. And also the government side are saying that they want a democracy that only represent those who are interested in politics. But as for they are not solving the problem that still a lot of people do not interested in the politics. So they still can't achieve the democracy it is because those people who are interested in still little. And actually they are just interested in the money, and that's not the democracy that we want to say. So what's your point?
People who don't care about politics still don't care, but we can get more things for those people who care about politics.
Yes, exactly. That's why those people that's why they are actually forcing the government to be a government that only care those who take care who interest in the politics instead of the whole citizens. But they are actually those people who actually at the time, those poor people, those who really need the care of the government actually do not have much incentive to participate in the politics. Why? Because they are following their life. They are trying to earn money instead of watching newspapers, instead of other stuff. But so those are the people who are not actually interested. But those are exactly the people that the government should protect instead of those who are rich people who have time to read news, who want to show their ambitions in the politics or some stuff like that. I'm sorry. And so they are actually forming a government that only in favor of those people, those rich people actually who are more interested in politics. So sorry. And so now I'm going to tell you why these policies do not efficiency. Like firstly, they are saying that the opening government saying is they are going to prevent the stop black market or stuff like that. But truth is that, like my POI mentioned, like as there can only one people can only get one vote more, and the procedure of this kind of is kind of complicated. They have to go to the police station or stuff like that, and they still can strengthen their voice in a deep stage. However, but in the black market, they give the money and they can get a lot of votes, and the procedure is quite easy. So the black market won't be punished at all. Instead of and also those like taking example of America, those Republicans are more have more money, and so therefore they have more ability to buy votes than those Democrats. So after taking this policy, those Republicans can buy more because they have money and they have their strength. They want their voice to be heard. However, even though the democracy wants to have their voice at the Republicans, but they are not rich as Republicans. So they are actually giving more chance to Republicans instead of Democrats. So they are actually harming the balance between those. And though this is not the truth, this is not what we want. Even so, they are actually giving more privilege to the people who are interested in politics and also having money instead of attracting more people to take interest in politics. So,
Exactly, sir. We're giving more focus on the people who are actually interested in politics. So, what is your definition of regarding participation in real democracy?
So we are saying that we want to reflect the idea of everybody, not only those who are interested in politics. Sorry. So we think that those poor people, I told you, those poor people are actually the one who needs to care. And they are actually do not have the incentive to really take an interest in the politics. Because they like strike. But so after taking this policy, their voice still cannot be heard because they are selling their votes. They can get money and they can use the money to change their life or some stuff like that. They can change it like every year, sorry. And so, however, those people who are interested in politics, those rich people, we say, mostly the rich people are those who have money, and they can strengthen their voice. So after they strengthen their voice, what will happen? They will have less tax or something. They will change. They are making their own position better instead of making the whole state position better. But the government's role is actually to make sure that the majority also know the whole country is developed instead of the position of several group of people. They are developed because those people who are giving their votes to the others, they still cannot have their voice heard, and the government won't listen to them. They won't change, and they are really needing that. So based on that, these are really hard to those people who voted, who telling the votes. And so we say that this kind of policy doesn't do not have effectiveness because they are actually do not change their people's interest in the politics, but they lead their interest in the politics to the interest of they change the conception of having interest in politics to the conception of having interest in money. So based on that, we firmly believe that it's not sure to practice politics.
Okay, next we're going to go with the opposition. I will call on the
state, the right to vote is only as important as these other root rights, such as the right to live, if and only if this right is initiated rightly. Now, this is the problem that we, the government side, are seeing in today's world. The right to vote is not being initiated rightly because the voting rates are horrific right now. Something that is not, this right is not being initiated rightly in the status quo. And that is why we are proposing this policy in today's debate. Now, before I begin my clashes, I have two rebuttals to make to my prior speaker. And the other rebuttals concerning the opening side will be dealt in my clashes. Now first, the member of the opposition said something about people will still not be interested, whether, even with these financial incentives. Now, we, the government side, acknowledge the fact that some of these people can't be moved, that some of these people will still be uninterested in politics, whether they receive financial incentives or not. However, we, the government side, are proposing and believe that some people can be interested, can become more interested, and thus our policy must stand. Now, simply denying the fact of simply denying the argument made by our government side without logical links is just simple denial. Now, for these reasons, I would like to rebut. Now, the second point, another point made by my prior speaker was about another analysis in people not being interested. Now, the prior speaker said something about poor people still being uninterested in politics, whether or not they gain financial incentives. However, we, the government side, believe, okay, they're already uninterested. Now, their views in the status quo won't have any matter in the status quo because they have no interest. No think about it. Now, by providing with an incentive, especially financial incentives, it would somehow, although it may be the minority of these poor, it will somehow get them to become interested in politics and express their views more, which is the essential part of democracy. Now, I'd like to go into the two clashes I have with you today. No thank you. The first clash is about the question, what is closer to democracy? No thank you. The opposition side states, what we see the opposition side as today is a democracy that is false. Everyone's just pretending to participate. Now, the government side proposed something about the government's role. Now, they said that it's the government's role to lift such rates of voting so that we can fix the fundamental problems of our society as a whole. However, we, the government side, gave you many examples, especially our member of the government. We explained that politicians, they have campaigns. These campaigns exist. And also, teaching teenagers to vote already exists. Now, I think that this teaching is probably most active now than any other time in the past. Yet the problem of no interest in voting is most high now. No thank you. Now, are there other methods to increase voting rates? I believe that the opposition side has given us none, which was part of the burden given on to the opposition in today's debate. Now, the government side today, what we're proposing on the question, what is closer to democracy, is stop pretending ideal democracy is possible. Get real and pursue democracy by the elite, or those who are more aware of the preciousness of the right to vote and of what politics is really about.
Sir.
No, thank you. Excuse me. Now, democracy, ideal democracy, as my prior member of the government side has spoken. Now, people participating directly in politics is what ideal democracy is. A section that determines how politics, especially a section that determines how our society will develop in turn. Now, is this possible? We, the government side, propose no, because of two reasons. First, people aren't interested. And second, even those who are interested, they have limited knowledge in what is what and what is right. Now, most are perplexed by the strong campaigns that these politicians have. Thus, ideal democracy is not possible. Our member of the government side has given you thus an alternative to turn to a different type of democracy. democracy. Democracy by those who care. And how do you do it? By our policy. Now, another positive part by pursuing our policy is that with financial incentive, as our member explained to you, people become more interested in politics, thus also solving the fundamental problem at hand. Now, the second clash I have for you today is, is it rightful to sell votes? The opposition side argues it's abuse. Now, teenagers or these poor people will sell their votes just for money. So it's unright and wrong. So what? The link that the opposition side gives is very illogical. It has no link with why selling votes itself is unjust or unrightful. The biggest burden given to the opposition side to prove in today's debate. However, they have failed. Now, I'd like to give you an analysis or a metaphor. Now, the freedom to express is also something that is being sold in today's world, although not directly. Now, media corporations and newspapers are buying this already. Now, reporters have to write articles. They have to write articles in a way so that these newspaper companies or media corporations accept their articles so that it matches the image of the company itself. Now, in return for forfeiting their freedom to express, in return they are getting income. Thus, something similar to what is happening in today's debate. Now, why is this rightful? It's because each company of the media represents a certain voice of society. A certain voice that can also be made by the elite or someone who is interested in politics, which the government side here today is proposing to you. Now, for all of these reasons, we are proud to propose. Thank you.